Want to talk about inflation, and not just about inflation, but also specifics of it, because I think it'll be very interesting for us to discuss that. Things like shrinkflation, alcohol level reduction. I prepared things for you for that, for those subjects. First is more introductory slide. What's been happening? I'm not going to just tell you, oh, there's inflation. You know that. But what I'll tell you is that even though it has hit consumers hard, you can see on the top right slide, if you take grocery CPI, the blue line, it's US measured inflation, you can see how fast it's coming down. So it was up to 16%, and now in April already it's down to minus. So the price is actually decreasing even. And overall headline inflation is also, you can see the same trend, maybe not as drastic. And as a result, consumers, this shows the searches of inflation. It's always a good measure, what's worrying people. Are they searching for things or not? And here you can see how much they searched for inflation between middle of 21 to middle of 22. And you can see how much it decreased. So it was up to whatever 60 is the measurement. Now it's up to 30. So half of the people are no longer interested to find out what this inflation is about. Is it still happening and how to deal with that? Which is very positive. The Google Trends source statistics is where I got that from. That I'm not telling you that there's inflation. I'm telling you that there's a very optimistic trends in terms of that changing. If we move on, this is an interesting slide. Got it from New York Times. Really enjoyed looking at it. Thought I'll share it. As of May, it was published in July, but as of May, if you look at annual inflation year to year, you can see all key countries here. And you can see that everyone is experiencing inflation. Yeah? There is no miracle. Obviously, there are some real tough ones like Argentina with 114%, not an easy one for Turkey with 40%. But most countries, the rest of the countries, are still seeing inflation. Maybe in Asia it's a bit lower, like China, South Korea, Japan, but it's quite high in Europe. Australia, US is a bit coming down. Colombia is catching up, going up. The reason Russia is so low is because Russia experienced a huge inflation the year before that in May, and so it looks low, but it's not low in general. So we see that whole world is affected. So no matter which part of the world you work in, you have to deal with the inflation issue. Next, want to talk about the subject of shrinkflation, which maybe you heard about it, maybe you've done it, but maybe you've seen it as a consumer. So let's address it a bit more. Shrinkflation is a terminology, just in case you're not sure what it means, just explain it. I'm sure it won't hurt, and we have time for this. It's when the manufacturer decreases the size or quantity of an item while keeping the price the same. And this has been a prominent theme in the market. When we opened stores for Tesco in America in 2008, 2007, it was the same problem. It was economic crisis, so producers have shrunk the sizes. In our last 2 years, we see some examples. Frito-Lay reduced Doritos bag size by about 5%. Brewers in the UK are reducing the alcohol content in their beers to maintain prices at the same level, which is also shrinkflation's example. I have two examples, and this is very recent. This is this year. Green King, a brewer and pub chain, cut the alcohol content of all speckled hen pale ale from 5% to 4.8. You can see this. And Shepherd Neame, the oldest brewer in the UK, cut the alcohol in Bishop's Finger Ale from 5.4 to 5.2. So clearly, something still a shrinkflation. So the question is it good for customers? Are they okay with that? Customers meaning not retailers, but end consumers. So, well, for retailers, we can talk about it too, if you like. So a recent Morning Consult survey concludes that only 25% of US adults have failed to notice shrinkflation in any grocery category, and many that have are seeking alternatives. And I'll have more information on that. So basically, you cannot hide it. If you shrink the size, customers will notice. If you shrink the alcohol level, customers will notice. And then they vote with their feet. And let's see what they do, how they vote. And this is the slide for this. The main problem that most say it would upset them. So this same Morning Consult survey of US adults in August 22 was conducted. Here's what people said. Obviously, it doesn't mean it's exact same for all the markets, but we wanted to understand US context here, and we have information about it quite powerful, so I wanted to share it. 48% elected to buy a different brand. 49% chose a generic product instead. So maybe like private label, yeah? 33% chose to buy products in bulk rather than smaller packages, and 30% stopped purchasing from specific brands when they notice shrinkflation. So people react, and you can see that 65% of all respondents are very or somewhat concerned about shrinkflation. So people are worried. They see that getting less for the same money. Interestingly, that the top category in which shrinkflation was noticed by customers is snacks. And for us, it's very relevant because snacks is just very close to beer. And we'll see in terms of consumption. We'll see some examples of displays pictures I took that it's constantly next to beer. Followed by pantry items. Pantry items are your flour, your sugar, etc., and meat. So that's what US consumers noticed. Interestingly, just to keep things a bit optimistic and not just have a lot of drama about it, size decrease, consumers said, is still better than the price increase. So important for us to realize that if we have a choice between two evils, consumers would be slightly more comfortable with the size increase than with the price increase. And I got this proof from a study from researchers led by Sydney Macquarie University from early this year. They found that shrinking sizes were preferable to price hikes because price is more noticeable and is given more weight than size. That's a very good argument. I would agree with that, because for me, that's how I see end consumers too. An interesting recommendation. I like that, so I included it. Haven't tested it, but in deep down, I agree with that. A slightly higher price at a smaller package shrink was even more preferable. So a little price increase and a little decrease in size, and maybe we'll get by, and customers will not leave the brand. Yeah. So